then d4. And here, you'll probably want to play queen to b8. Now, this might look kind of weird to you, and you might wonder, well, why aren't I playing queen to c7 instead? Normally would in a Chigorin, a regular Chigorin. Well, the problem here is AB, you have to take with the bishop, which is unappealing as it leaves the queenside pawns in disarray. But the problem is A takes b5, and loose pieces drop off. So white plays b4, winning material. So that's why the queen goes to b8 here. And okay, there's a fair amount of theory here. Not a huge amount, but this certainly has been tested. Bishop goes here, bishop to e6, and then white either plays h3, and not so much to stop bishop g4. I mean, if black was really hankering to do that, he could have done it on the previous move, but more to give the bishop a little flight square if need be. There might also be some positions where knight h2, g4 could take place. So it's just kind of a handy move, but knight b to d2 is also played. At any rate, this is an option, but one not taken. So Carlsen dropped the bishop back to a2 instead, and black played c5. And at least in my database, black has gone 7 out of 7 from here. Now, don't panic, those of you who want to play this with white. I don't mean that black won 7 games. I mean that he drew all 7. But it's a relatively small sample size, so I don't think we need to be too afraid if we're Ruy Lopez players and we want to avoid the marshal and want to go for d3. So I think there's still plenty of room for investigation here. All right, so after c5, a very typical move is the one that was played now, which is bishop to g5. Now, there are lots of Ruy Lopez's where white has no interest in playing bishop to g5. But this situation is a little bit different because black has played c5 and white's pawn is on d3. So here, there's at least the prospect of white ending up with piece control over the d5 square, and maybe someday landing a knight there, a permanent knight there. So bishop to g5 is about swapping the bishop, which of course cannot occupy the d5 square, for one of the black minor pieces that can fight for it. So here, bishop to g5 makes very good sense. All right, let's continue. Black castled, and in the PGN file, I give a game between Caruana and Topalov, by far the most illustrious predecessor of the 7 to this game, where this variation took place. So there, Caruana swapped on b5, and then played knight a3, and then the knight went to c2, and, well, it's aiming for the d5 square. So in that game, black played c4, white's knight ended up going to b4, but I don't think the knight ever actually made it to d5 in that game, and it finished in a draw after the time control. So that's possible, but Carlsen plays more classically. He just goes knight b to d2. Tari plays rook to b8. And now, of course, lest black consider b takes a4 himself. This is an idea that sometimes does occur in a number of these closed Ruy Lopez's. So it might seem positionally suspect to you, but the point is that, well, there's 2 points. One is that there's pressure against b2, and the second is that after that capture occurs, sometimes black can play knight to b3. I mean, how good it is depends on the particulars and the position, of course, but that could be a very unpleasant idea sometimes for white to cope with. So be aware that rook to b8 is not merely kind of way of clearing the A file in anticipation of white's using it. So there can be aggressive intention behind this move as well. So rook to b8 was played, and now, well, white plays a takes b5. So he opens the A file for himself, now that black's rook has left the file, and of course defanging any b takes a4 ideas. So takes, and now rook to e1. So this clears the way for the knight to go to f1 and e3 or g3, and it's also overprotecting the e4 pawn, which in some positions could come in handy if white goes for d4. So white is kind of playing a waiting game here. I think he stands a little bit better. I don't think that black's position is terribly harmonious. It's not that black is in trouble, but it's a position where white is going to be dictating the play, and black will be